The OpenFileDialog Control. Its purpose is the OpenFileDialog Control allows the user to browse and select a file to be used in an application. The setup, rather than appear in a form, the OpenFileDialog is an invisible control that resides in the component tray just beneath the form. The commonly used properties are: there's the name. It's a unique ID to refer to a specific control in code. There's a file name, the name of the file to be opened. The initial directory, where the file search should begin. The default is the documents directory. The title is displayed in the dialog's box title bar. The default is open. The default events, there are none. There are no events with this control. How's it used? Well, when called, this control displays a standard Windows Open dialog box. The user can select a file by navigating the files on the system. The user can also cancel the operation. To give an idea of where it belongs, in a standard file processing routine, you're always going to be opening the file. You're going to then process the file. And then you're going to close the file. When you're not using the OpenFileDialog, you're actually using an OpenFile command. Here is where you stick the File Dialog Control. And it allows the user to step out of the program, select the file, come back, and then continue along the path just as you normally would. In other words, it allows the user the ability to grab the file name rather than you coding it inside the program. Let's see how this works. To get started, the first thing we're going to do is find the OpenFileDialog. It's not in the common controls. It's down in the dialog section right down here. And if you open it up, you'll see the OpenFileDialog Control. Simply double click on it and it pops on the form. Notice it doesn't pop in the form itself. It pops up in this area down here on the bottom, the control area. And then it gives you a set of properties that you can actually use for this thing. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to name this guy DLG using Hungarian notation, OpenFile. You could call it Bozo for all I care. It doesn't matter. This is the name you're going to refer to it in code. The file name, OpenFileDialog 1, doesn't really matter here. I could specify a name right here, but generally what I want to do is I want the user to define a file on it. Property is then going to hold the file that the user actually finds. Initial directory is right down here. You certainly can put something in there if you wish. In this case too, I'll let it default to the default folder, but I could actually set it up where it's going to the C drive. You do that by putting the @ in and then C:, and it'll default to the C:\/ drive. If I had a directory in there or a folder in there, I could specify that as well. The other thing you can do is you can put the title in place here. It's going to say open when it gets to that thing. I'm going to put down demo here, just so we can kind of see where that actually shows up. So demo is what we're going to call this thing. And that'll specify. That's all I need to do. That's the only control I need to do in this thing. Now what I'd like to do is I'd like it to actually do something. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to grab a label and lay it up in here. And I'm going to call this label, let's make this form a little bit bigger. I want to make it large because the file name could be very large depending upon the hard drive you have and the number of paths you're actually going through when you actually look at this thing. I'm going to grab another label and call it the file and put it up here just to identify what this thing is. This particular label right now, I'm calling it LBL file name. And I'm just going to use it to do one thing, to actually find the directory that I'm actually in at this point in time. And that's all I'm going to do with this thing. I am going to grab a hold of a button and lay it on this form here. And it's going to be called Show Dialog. I'm going to change the name on this thing as Button Show. And I'll leave the thing as Show Dialog right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and code it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, remember I called it DLG Open File. So I'm going to say DLG Open File. It's even giving me a little bit of a help here. Show Dialog. This is how you actually display the menu for the user. Once the user has gone in there and selected something, we'll actually have a label. And so we'll be able to say that our file name. We'll be able to say label file name.txt is equal to DLG file open file name. That's all I need to do. That will make this happen. It'll obtain the file name for the user. Let's do a file save on this. Let's run it and let's make it happen. Just to see what we're doing here. The program comes up, and if I hit the show dialog, it's going to actually show the dialog and allow me to peruse through anywhere I want on my hard drive if I like. It's going to a documents folder because it's defaulted to that. I'm going to go ahead and I've got a Dropbox area right here, and I've got this stuff right in here, and I've got some files in here that I could actually pull. I think we're using Toolbox right now, and if I'm not mistaken, I had a file in here. Oh, in the list box, picture box control, I used a Daffy Duck picture, And if I go ahead and look at that thing, it's probably in the sandbox. There it is, Daffy. And if I hit open on this thing, notice that the entire path is displayed in my label. So it allows you to get file name and its path so that your program can then use it in code. That's really all it has to do. But let's go a little beyond that, just so you get an idea how you can use it in code, how you normally use it in code. I'm going to grab 3 more buttons on this thing, and I'm going to go ahead and grab a direct open and lay it here. I'm going to grab a dialog open, Control C, put it over here. And then I'm going to have an exit button and lay it in over here. Let's do it this way. I'll click this one first, then I'll click this one, this one, this one, and format it so I'm aligning their tops. And then I'm actually format and making the horizontal spacing equal. And let's shrink that down a little bit. There they all are. Format, horizontal spacing, make equal. Now we're in good shape. Now what I want to do is I want to go back to that flowchart we just looked at a little while ago and do that direct open here. How would you actually code that? No, I have this guy called button direct, and I'm going to go ahead and double click on this thing. And there's my code for it. What I want to do is I want to go ahead and I want to open a file. So I'll put a comment in there. And how I do that is I normally do it, input file is equal to file.open, text, and I'm going to call this guys.txt. And then put a comment on the back end of this. One thing I'm missing right here is I've got an error in this thing. That's because when you start working with files, you need to put that system IO piece in. So I'm going to be using system IO. And that allows us to grab the stuff we need. I still have a problem here because I don't have it defined as to my stream reader is not defined yet. So I'm going to go up to the very, very top. So I'm going to write a couple of different programs to do this thing. I'm going to go to my public forums here. Underneath it, I'm going to put in, or just above it, I'm going to put in my stream reader. Right? That's what the system IO gives me. And then I can actually say input, file, and it gets rid of our error. So now we actually did go ahead and open this file, and we've got an open file here. The next thing I want to do is I want to process the file. So put a comment in here saying process the file. And we do that by saying string string, we'll set up a str dummy variable that's going to hold input file.readline. So it's going to read something from a file. I'm going to have to put that file out there, and I'll show you that in a minute. And once I have that file in place, I want to put it out on a label. So let's go ahead and put a label out here. I'm going to grab this label. There we go. I'll put this guy right here. We're going to call this one label data. And I'm going to say the data right here and place that in place right there. So we've got it set up. Now, what I do need to do is I need to make sure that my file's out there. This has 3 things in it: Daffy Duck, Elmer Fudd, Porky Pig. That's all. That's all we've got in there. On the other guys, similar, Tasmanian Devil, Daffy Duck, Elmer Fudd, Porky Pig. Oh, the same thing, but it's got Tasmanian Devil on top. Just want to make a distinction there. So let's go ahead and pull this out. And let's go ahead and, we don't need this anymore. We can pull it out of the way. Let's go back to our direct open. And what I want to do is I'm taking that string down, I'm reading that file, and I'm going to put it inside that label I just created. So we're going to say label data.text is equal to str_dummy. That's the extent of it. That's all we need to say. And then, of course, to complete our file processing routine, we will close the file. And we'll do that with input file.close. And that's the extent of it. Input file close. That's it. We now can run this thing. We'll use this direct open button right here and click on it. And it's going to go right to our file and grab that Daffy Duck you saw before at the very, very top of the file. We opened up guys. Yeah, guys.txt right here is what we opened up. So what you saw right now is the direct open on how it actually works, how this code works. We're now going to take this piece right here, the input file part, and we're going to make this thing become the dialog box. So we're going to let the user pick this particular file. So let's go back up here and let's open our dialog open. Now this is going to be a little bit different. What we're going to do is we're going to start with an if statement. We're going to say if dlg open file.show dialog is equal to display dialog results, okay, then we want to do something. What do we want to do? We want to process this block right here. Else, always comment your else's first because you get them out of the way and it makes your structure a little bit easier to see in this program. Just didn't click for me. So we've got our else here, and we're all set to go. In the else, I'm simply going to put a message box in here, and the message box is going to say message box.show operation canceled by user. And we put a semicolon in the end of that thing. So in other words, when you use the OpenFileDialog, you use it to get the file. But the user also has the option to click cancel on this thing. You'll see that in a moment. And if the user does cancel it, we want it to do something. We don't want it to blow up. So we can just go here and gracefully get out of the program. But now we can put in here, we can put all the same stuff we had up here for our other program into this area right here. Because right here now we have the file name. So all we need to do is say, we'll do the same thing. We'll do a slash open file. And here we're going to say input file is equal to file.opentext DLG open file name. In other words, we're going to get the file name that the user has selected instead of our file name. That's the difference between this line here and this new line we have right down here. Here we coded it. Up here you're using show dialog to get it and letting the user get it. Once the user gets it, we can process the file. Now obviously I could be using loops here to read a whole bunch of stuff, and we're just reading in one record just to get the idea of how this works. Again, I'll say string dummy. str dummy is equal to input file read line, exactly the same code we had before, and I'll stick it out and that'll be all data, just like we had before. And then I'll close the file. And we're all set to go. Now, let's give this a shot. It's almost the same as this, it's slightly different, but I think seeing it like this, you're going to see a better look at this thing. File save, we'll run it. Out comes our program. We now can do the dialog open. So what we'll do here, in fact, let's do the direct open first and get our Daffy Duck. There it is. But we're going to do a dialog open now. We're going to grab something. And we're going to navigate to the area that I've actually worked with now. I have this OpenFileDialog Control. And I'm going to go into the sandbox and pull up the program we're working on right now, which is the demo program. Go into the folder that the demo program sits in. Go into the bin folder. And go into the debug folder. And I can pick either one of these guys. Now, if you remember, I wrote this file that has Tasmanian Devil in the front instead of Daffy Duck. If I went to this one, you're not going to see any difference. You're going to see Daffy Duck coming because we're reading the first record. So I grabbed this guy right here, which says Tasmanian Devil. I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to say open, and Tasmanian Devil pops in here. It reads the first record in that file sequence without any problem. The direct open still does its thing, puts Daffy Duck in there. The direct open, the dialog open, does this. But now, instead of saying other guys, I'm going to say cancel. And it picks that up, an operation canceled by the user. So that's how this process works. The only comment I want to make on all this is that the thing you don't see here is a try-catch. When you're working with files, you probably want to surround this by a try-catch. When the try up here, the catch somewhere down here, so that all of this becomes in the try piece, and then anything happens to the file, there's an error, file's not found, whatever else, you'll catch the error and be able to process the thing just fine. But this is basically it. This is all you need to know for the OpenFileDialog Control, and you're all set to go. That's it.